What's up, guys? Today we're going to be doing a revisit of the iPhone XS in 2025. It's been a minute since I talked about the iPhone XS, and the overall design just looks really sleek. Let me wipe it down. It's just a very sleek and classy looking phone here. So always, one of my favorite phones to revisit. This phone is still, on the latest version of iOS. So that is the cool thing about this phone. I wouldn't be surprised if it got iOS 19. I don't think iOS 19 should be a big redesign, but from what we're hearing, it possibly could be. If so, then they might not bring it to this phone. But this phone has had a pretty long lifespan, considering that it was released in 2018. This is very comfortable to hold. It kind of feels like a compact phone these days. Because it's a 5.8 inch phone, it's very easy to one hand. It's very comfortable phone to hold. And it's IP68 dust and water resistant. And we have that dual camera setup on the back here. And yeah, so I just really like the design, the glossy finish. It looks really nice. The XS display was pretty good for its time. It's a 5.8 inch display, and it is a 1125 by 2436, so it's actually a pretty high resolution, and it's 458 for the PPI. So it's a pretty nice specs for this size panel here. And of course we have the notch. And the interesting thing about iPhone displays is that this still has a 60 hertz panel, and the newest iPhone 16 also has a 60 hertz panel. So it's just crazy how Apple, how they try to sell you up on the ladder, not putting the 60 hertz, because coming back to this phone after constantly using 120 hertz phones, you really notice those 60 hertz when scrolling. Like games like this, you really don't, you don't really notice it, but scrolling web pages and just the home screen, social media, everything just looks almost kind of like blurry, I guess. But if you're used to 60 hertz, you won't really notice it, right? But yeah, the display on here is very nice. I have no issues with it. Overall, pretty comfortable. Everything is nice and smooth for the most part. So you guys can see it's not, the phone itself is not laggy. So that's the one thing I noticed coming back to it. I think this is on iOS 18.5, I believe. So it's actually pretty smooth for the most part at doing just normal stuff. You will see kind of like little, I guess, like hiccups, animation hiccups here and there. But it seems to be pretty smooth for the most part. I was pretty surprised with the performance on the XS. Just scrolling and just doing normal stuff, social media, seems to be doing a pretty good job. Now, one thing I do notice is that compared to today's phones, the applications kind of do take a little bit longer to load up. It's not really noticeable unless you've been using like the latest, devices and stuff like that. But yeah, overall, it's really not that bad of an experience. I could use this phone, honestly, as a daily driver if I had to. It's not, nothing feels terribly bad about, using this phone. So I think it's aged pretty well in terms of the speed department here. And I'll pull up the Geekbench scores here. Apple, these phones have always had really good chipsets. So as you can see, the Geekbench scores aren't that super impressive, right? It's the Apple A12 chip. We have 64 gigs of internal storage, which is pretty low. Then we also have 4 gigs of RAM. Now, I don't expect much out of the A12 chipset, but it actually can do some light gaming. Of course, you're not going to get, crazy performance. My biggest issue, I think, with the XS is that this thing can get, like, super hot during, like, intense stuff, like maybe doing GPS gaming for a longer periods of time. This phone can definitely get, like, kind of uncomfortable to the touch. And we can still play PUBG HDR Extreme. It doesn't quite feel like 60 frames anymore, but it's still smooth. This kind of feels like 40. Yeah, it's still smooth though. It's not. It doesn't feel that bad. I think it's still playable. But like I said, like you could, come in here and get like a match of PUBG. It's just not gonna be like. Yeah, it just doesn't feel like 60 anymore. But yeah, for the most part, I think the XS performance is pretty good. It's not like it's lagging all over the place. It's still decent for playing, just some light gaming. Call of Duty, you can play on here just fine. PUBG, you guys can see it's working, perfectly fine. And I noticed that a lot of people still have this phone, especially overseas. So I wouldn't personally get, a 10s in 2025, especially this late into the year with the lifespan of it, about to be over. I think you should just save up. Me personally, I would go for a 13, but I know that like overseas, you guys tell me it's very expensive. If you can, get a 12. I honestly wouldn't even go for the 11 anymore. I would try to like bare minimum get a 12 if the price is really an issue, right? But as you guys can see, this is really not that bad. It's not slow at all. I actually really like the speakers on here. Even though you get a good amount of bass quality, as you guys, I don't know if you guys can hear, but there is some tinginess. I don't know if it's because the device is just kind of older now and maybe the speaker got messed up. Oh, now it just randomly went away. I heard it earlier, I swear. I swear I heard it. But just like making me look like a liar. But yeah, I mean the speakers sound pretty good. There's a good amount of bass on here. I've always liked iPhone speakers. They've been, usually pretty solid, consistently solid. So yeah, the speakers are fine. And Face ID, of course, hasn't been touched. It's been virtually the same for years now. Now the camera experience on the XS, this is something that I was kind of curious about, considering all the latest iPhones out right now. The cameras on the XS really aren't as bad as I was thinking it was going to be. I don't know why I thought the shots would just look horrible, but the shots really aren't that bad in good lighting. It's only when you put this phone in any type of low light, it just falls apart. It gets extremely soft and grainy, and it just doesn't look good. But one thing that you will notice is that this thing can still give you a pretty good shot with that telephoto lens. I was pretty impressed with that 2 times on here. So it's got, a dual 12 megapixel cameras, and then you got 4K 60 video. The video is pretty solid on here. It's a 7 megapixel selfie cam that shoots in 1080 60. If you guys can see the shots, this is not bad at all in good lighting. It's only like you put this phone in any type of medium to low light, it just falls apart completely. But the video is solid and the pictures still look really good. The XS has a pretty small battery, and I think the battery health on here, the battery health on mine is not that bad. I believe this one got replaced, so I always advise people to, if the battery just gets out of control, you just replace it. But this is 85 battery health. That's not bad at all. The screen on time on the XS isn't that great. It wasn't that great at launch date. This was a phone that, for me, like when I got it, when it first came out, I could never get through like a real full day with this phone. And yeah, the battery is small. It's a 2658, 15-watt charging. It does have wireless charging. Battery was really not that impressive, and like I said, it got hot a lot for me if you kind of do intense tasks. But yeah, what do you guys think of the iPhone XS here? I think this phone is aging beautifully, and it is, a nice phone for me to have in my collection. It has a lot of, it's an interesting direction that Apple took with this annoying Face ID design, and them getting rid of the home button. And yeah, so what do you guys think?